candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Avag Beck's podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our show today. So we have DM with us. Yes, he loves to be called DM. We're going to refer to him as DM. Is Dennis Meador. That's it. Dennis Meador. So he is a founder and CEO of Legal Podcast Network. And he knows marketing, he knows business. He knows a lot of things. So this episode, we're really going to frame it around the founder's journey in business. So if you already started something and you're kind of like lost, great episode for you. If you founded something and you're looking to grow, great episode. If you're looking to start and you don't know quite what to do or how to start, great episode for you as well. So this leans into almost everybody's wheelhouse. Or if you're a company that, again, you're looking to double your revenue, I'm sure DM is going to say certain things that may just be that, button you were looking to click. So pull up, join our conversation. And as always, you're always going to learn something. So welcome, DM. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me. I'm in the midst of a podcasting marathon. This is episode number 5 today. I've got 6 because I am doing 7 today. I have one more after this.
Yeah.
And look at me. I'm fresh as a daisy, ready to go, all for you. So let's wow your audience. Let's teach your audience, and let's have a good time while we're at it.
Absolutely. We always have a great time here. So podcast network. I'm also a network owner. I'm very proud of that. I started my podcast network about 2 years now. Again, so this is going to help me learn something and also grow. So what was the one thing that turned on that switch that, hey, I need to platform people who have something to say?
So I've worked with the legal community in marketing for over 20 years. I've been in marketing for over 30 years. So this really sat in my wheelhouse in a couple of different ways. I did a podcast in 2019 when I lived in Austin, Texas, and I called that one ATXAF. I was just like, hey, Austin's supposed to be like the coolest place in the world right now. I should just like talk to the people who are cool. And so I started like interviewing musicians, chefs, artists, entrepreneurs, influencers. And what I noticed, obviously, I wasn't the only person in Austin doing a podcast about Austin, but very quickly, we were waitlisted waiting for people trying to get on our show and work with us. Because what I did was, I was just like, I don't want to just have I just want to sit in a garage, grab 2 microphones, sit back with my buddy, drink a beer, and talk about stuff for an hour and a half a week. I was like, I want this to be like fun and cool and to the point. So one of the things I did is I hired a videography company, and we had 3 cameras we traveled around with, sound, got 2 sound guys. So we had a crew of 10 people, and we actually did all of our podcasts on site at different cool places across Austin. We were also shooting in HD and 4K, lighting kits and everything else. So some of these people were like, oh, I'm going to be on this podcast, and they'd show up somewhere and it's just some guy's garage. And then I'd be like, oh, hey, we're going to meet at this restaurant. And they're probably thinking like, oh, we're going to have a couple of like a cell phone and a booth, and this guy's going to talk to me. And then we like have the whole basement closed off with a catered dinner and people introduce like a whole event. And we would shoot 10 episodes, 5 hours straight. And we started putting it out, and everybody was just like loving it. We were looking at actually launching an actual full like streaming television network. So I kind of set that off to the side because most people, what they want to do in podcasting is you want to do it, spend $150,000 in 3 months, not make any money, and then hit the pause button. That's the ideal plan. So that's how I undertook that.
Right.
And I just kind of shelved it. Honestly, I already had my own successful company. This was just a side fun, like passion project that, as so often passion projects can became its own real thing. And then I had to decide, did I want to be where I was or what that was? And my partner was just like, no, I can't do this anymore. You're like 24/7. If you're not running your business, you're doing the podcast stuff, you're going to events to meet people for the podcast, all you talk about is fine. So I put that to the side. Then in December 1st, 2023, the business that I had, which was an SEO agency for attorneys, my partner basically exercises buyout. And I was like, I'd been talking to attorneys and they kept saying, "Do you do a podcast? Do you do a pod? Can you help me with a podcast?" And we couldn't. And I didn't know anybody who could. So then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast network. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure what the definition of a podcast network is because for me, because I had somebody today talk about the network and blah, blah, blah. To me, what my definition of a network is not like a networking event. It's just like a loose sort of group of shows that help each other in different ways. What I wanted to do was create kind of like a mirrored model of a television network where we produce, we do the content, and then we go out and we find people who want shows, and then we create the show around them for their market. So we started off and we created our first show. We do different kinds of a very different kind of podcast for professionals. We call it authority podcast. They're about 20 minutes. There's 7 to 10 questions that are for very specific situations for their ideal client. So, for example, today's episode is about custody and divorce in Atlanta, specifically if you're a high income earner. Boom. Or you're a income earner as a woman or as a man and you want custody. And that's not traditional in our. And so then the attorney will talk for about 20 minutes on that very specific subject. Now, if you're a podcast listener, that is not the podcast you're going to listen to. What I tell people is this is not a podcast for the world. This is a podcast for a very small group of people at a very specific time that have very real needs. And if professionals can then at that time connect with people, answer their questions, assuage their fears, give them clarity in the situation that they're in, then the professional can gain their business because they know them, they like them, and then they just call or meet to confirm trust. So my idea of a network is really just about, I'm like a network head in a way, the way that I think about it, because I'm always developing shows, even my own clients. I'll call them and I'll be like, I was watching one of your shows the other day, and I noticed you talked about mentoring attorneys, but your show is about injury cases. Why aren't you doing a show about mentoring attorneys? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, well, let's launch a show for it. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm always looking for talent because we have 2 sets of shows. We have shows for attorneys. We have about 20 of those. And then we have shows from attorneys, which is the vast majority of our clients. The other thing that I did that I'm perceiving is different is we approach this financially as a production company. So we make our money in creating the shows. We aren't looking for back end. Actually, the intellectual property is owned by our clients. So although we're marketing and distributing and doing everything, it's all by permission in the original contract on their behalf. If our relationship ends, we give them all their content files and we step back and we go, okay, it's your show. So I've taken a little bit of a different approach based on working with attorneys as long as I have, based on their pain points, based on the things that I knew would cause friction from us growing at a good rate. And I basically just tried to create a system that enables us to be better, faster, with less friction. And we're constantly seeking to do that in our processes and everything. And even from just the beginning, when we first launched, and we launched doing well, when we first launched, we were doing 3 pieces of content for every episode. One video before the show they could distribute, one video when the show came out, and one video after for their social media. We have now evolved where we do 30 pieces of content per episode, 10 videos, 10 audiograms, 10 static. We post all of their social media for them, unless they don't want us to, on up to 10 outlets. And if they don't have all 10 of them, we'll create and manage it all for them. So we're content, production, editing video, distribution, marketing, and we do site content. So again, if you go to NBC and you get a show on NBC, they're going to market you. Hey, come check this out. Even though you might own some rights and get overrides throughout time. So that's the model, the mindset that I tried to have in creating a network.
Beautiful.
This always happens to me. People are
No,
like, I'm going to just riff questions. And then I
no, no,
answer and they're
no.
like, I now have
It's
eight
not listening to
questions.
questions. No, no, no. I actually admire it because the reason I admire it is that when I started, that was the mindset that I started it with. And if you're bootstrapping and you have to kind of like balance everything, business is business. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from it. However, when you start something, sometimes you're like, okay, am I biting off too much that I can chew? Right? But on the other end, the way that I'm structured is that I give people platform. I take care of everything else, but the intellectual property and the name of the podcast and everything that goes into it, it's basically on my shoulders and on my back. With monetizing, I'm not monetized at the moment. However, it's something that I'm considering because the people that I'm giving the platform to are really the next generation of leaders, I should say. So it's not really
Hmm.
niche, like you're niched with attorneys, you're niched down.
Right.
So my question to you is, what is the difference between what I'm doing, platforming people who either already have a platform, however small, or would do well with having a platform of their own, or focusing on professionals who have already established careers, like attorneys, and focusing on expanding their reach that way?
Like, how would I approach them differently?
You approach them differently, and what are the advantages and drawbacks of both?
So, the people that aren't established that you think have a good voice, well, let me say this first of all. Number one rule in business for me is revenue. Until I have revenue in my mind, I don't have a business.
Right.
I have a charity or a hobby. No offense, but I'm just keeping it real, my friend. So to me, it was like, okay, I already know lawyers. So it wasn't like I was like 48 now, I guess a couple of years ago. So I'm 46 years old. I wasn't like, well, lawyers have money. Let's try that one. Like I already knew lawyers. I knew their pain points. I knew how they talk. I know how to talk to them, blah, 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 blah. So that was an easy one given for me. But the issue that I found with people who aren't established and trying to help them is it's hard for them to understand the value that you really bring. Because when something costs nothing, it's worth zero. And so with my clients, even they'll pay a pretty decent amount of money to work with me and still not show up. So what we do is we have to do things like if you mix X amount in the contract time, then you get this charge. But if you make them all, we're going to give you this free product of worth $500. So we're like carrot and sticking everything. And so even people that are paying money every month, now our clients are like 94% on time or ahead. So it's not like a huge issue, but we were down into like the 70s at one time before we put this into place. And so I personally would have a hard time doing so unless I saw it as a charity. And that's why I said it that way. Like if I was like, listen, I want to empower the next generation with a new network. Well, I would use this network and my authority and my networks that are coming out next year. I would use those to fund that and write it off and make it a byline write off. But revenue is always first for me. So to me, I had to find a way to replace an income that I had built up that was a good income within 5 months. And it took me six, but it took me 5 years being a partner. It took me 6 months by myself to replace the income. So I had to approach it very differently than maybe somebody who can go, listen, I want to invest, and over time, this is what I hope I can get out of it. So that's what I would say. I always think you should have a passion project. I think every entrepreneur should have something that they do. Sometimes we're lucky enough, though, that our passion project is our money project, which is where I'm sitting right now. Literally, my wife said to me like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, she's like, I'm so jealous of you. And I was like, why, babe? And she's like, you actually love what you do. And I'm like, sorry? Let me go back and answer the question as succinctly as possible because I hadn't really been asked this question before. So I didn't have a baseline. But I think you need to decide in the beginning what you're doing this for.
Yes.
If you're doing it because you need to make money, then you need to be thinking of revenue first. If you're doing it because you want to make a difference, and you can make money and make a difference, and you
Yes.
can make a difference and make money, but you
Yes.
can make money a lot quicker than you can make a difference.
Okay.
And you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so that's what I would
yeah.
be asking myself.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, and I'm glad you put
Yes.
it that way. It's a bit of both. So I'm in healthcare, and also in the tech side of healthcare as well. It really started this. So I do host two podcasts, Abeg Vex and On Shelling Medicine. So I really started the podcast in the podcast area for healthcare because a lot of my colleagues and even people I consider my mentor have a lot of value to offer. However, with their prestige, their wealth of knowledge and expertise. Healthcare professionals are the most skittish, shy people I've ever met. You know, they for some reason shy away from the spotlight when they have so much to say, when they have so much to offer, when people actively seek them out. So when I started the network, especially with on Shelley Medicine being one of the podcasts, it was to set this as an example of what could be. And there are a lot of healthcare professionals that have a platform. However, the people I was looking to platform and I approach had so much to say behind closed doors, but did not want to be in front of a camera, even if I was willing to meet them where they are. So when it comes to revenue aspect, shooting, editing, posting, managing everything, I have the infrastructure set up for that. However, it has to be marketed to the right people. So as
Right.
opposed to focusing on my ecosystem, I'm now willing to expand so I can get that revenue aspect you're talking about. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to different people. I enjoy learning. However, I still enjoy being in the healthcare system. So balancing both where it doesn't feel like a burden, where I can still enjoy what I do on both spheres and also be an example to the next generation of healthcare workers. It doesn't matter what area of expertise, that you too can do this. You too can share your knowledge. You too can go out there and be, the voice of the next generation. So that is kind of where I am. It's kind of like this teeter-totter sense. Yeah.
Can I share with you what we do with our camera shy clients
Okay. I would love to hear it.
that we found helps? The more you can emulate a situation in which they're already comfortable, the more you can get out of them. So, what we tell our clients is we're like, I just want you to think of the camera as a client sitting across the desk asking you questions, a potential client, because most attorneys will say that's where they shine. When somebody comes in for a consult, they have that conversation. So most of our clients just sit behind their desk with the thing right now. Now, some of them are a little more set up, kind of like I am, and things like that.
Right.
But we try to create a atmosphere as much emulates their strong suit as possible. The other thing that we've done is we provide a host for our clients, and our hosts are professional hosts. Matter of fact, we just put this on today. Our lead host, Mike Leon, he goes on CNN a bunch. And today he changed because he's coming on full time January 1st from whatever he was. And it said Anchor Dash, the Legal Podcast Network. So I guess this was yesterday. So all across the company, we're all like, look, we're on CNN. Like, this is great. But what Mike does, Mike's a host. He hosts and talks to people all the time. And I have 6 or 7 hosts, and I let them pick their host based on their sizzle reel, based on their comfort level. I have different ages, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And they literally go in and go, that's who I want to work with. And if they're, oh, let me try somebody else, they can try somebody else. And so our hosts become pseudo friends to our clients. And they're like, I just love Mike. I just love Chelsea. And it's just like, to them, they're just having a conversation with their friend like they would across the desk from a potential client, just answering questions. So if you find that your people that you're working with are uncomfortable, find where they're comfortable and do all you can to emulate that process. And then it just becomes natural for them.
Thank you for that. That it makes so much sense because I too was camera shy. I know. Surprise, surprise.
What?
I too was very camera shy. I came to Yankee Stadium, I will flow. However, having a camera in front of me, I'm like, okay, no, this is not natural. So literally, shout out to Favor. My marketing friend Favor said, you know what, we're going to do this. Call me on FaceTime, put the phone on the side, and you're going to record this first episode. That is how I got over feeling like I was just talking to a camera or a screen or lens. It's not completely natural to create content outside of doing something like this. So thank you for that. And I'm definitely going to implement that. So when it comes to marketing, again, we start with our immediate ecosystem. And I'm stepping away from that so I can attract the right people who are willing. So,
Mhm.
what you advise that I do, and anybody listening who may be thinking about going this direction as well.
So this is kind of the core ethos of what we do. And I know that's kind of a synonym, but just stay with me. I'm trying to sound smart here. So what we do is we identify where we're going and build backwards from there. Most marketing emanates from who I am. Most marketing says, look at me. I am DM Meador. I have done this 30 years. I have worked with attorneys 22 years. I have taken 3 companies from less than $1 million to 3 to 5 million within 1 to 2 years. I am living on an island. Ha ha ha. You should work with me. That's marketing traditionally. But what authoritative positioning does is it says, okay, who's my client? This is who my client is. Okay, what are their problems? What are they like? What are the things they run into? What things are parallel around them? What are the things that keep them up at night that I can answer? And then I build everything around that backwards to me. And I love this illustration. You remember the mazes we got when we were a kid and you'd
Yeah,
like draw and then what was the easiest way to solve the maze? Do you remember?
starting from the endpoint.
Exactly. That's how marketing is done, my friend. Start at the end and work backwards, and you won't run into a bunch of dead ends along the
Right.
way. So I would say identify those people that you feel like number one, have the money, number two, have the desire, number three, have the ability. And three is always third. Don't start with ability, start with money and desire because ability can be cultivated. Like you said, you went from your friend forcing you to be on camera to being all smiles and great rapport with some dude on an island across the world, right? And you didn't jump there overnight. You didn't just go, okay, now I got it. I'm great at this. Like you got better and you got a little same thing. You know why I started on my 100 podcast guest
Would
journey
love to
this
hear.
year?
I would love to
Because
hear.
I was a pastor for 20. I can't say my name in less than 10 minutes. Right? So I had to learn how to create an arc of 90 seconds to 3 minutes to have a beginning and an end. I'm not on Joe Rogan, just like, yeah, man, I think, I had to learn how to actually cultivate this skill set. One of the things I watch back to the beginning of my podcasting and I'm saying every third word, it's and I'm just like, oh my word. How did anybody even watch this podcast, let alone, a couple thousand people? Fortunately, I said some words in the middle between them, but I didn't hear them. But I had to cultivate and
Right.
work and learn and grow. And so that's why I say they have the money, they have the desire, and they have the ability or they're willing to learn. And if you can find those three things, then and here's the advantage that we have right now in podcasting. We're no longer fringe. We are forefront. We are forefront. Netflix is putting podcasts on there. Who else just signed a bunch of podcasts? But major streaming
Amazon.
services,
Amazon is,
Amazon. Yeah, everybody's doing podcasts
yeah.
nowadays all of a sudden. I mean, I myself, we're launching two networks, streaming TV networks in January for legal. LPN Life for the lawyers and LPN Answers for from the lawyers. And they're
You putting
literally
that in
just
respect with the medical community, with the LPN?
no, it's just Legal Podcast Network.
Okay. Okay. I mean, it's nurses.
Nobody's
Nobody fights for nurses, so whatever.
I mean, I guess if I got to fight for my name, I don't know. Sorry. Sorry for having initials that mirror yours. I don't think anybody thinks when I stand up that I'm a licensed practitioner nurse or whatever.
Well, you have to look for it. Go for it. Why not?
You know,
So, Dia, let's talk about the platforms. Okay. You mentioned Netflix. We talked about Amazon Studio. Art19 is Amazon's big platform. And I'm not advertising for them. Okay. Well, you can pay us. We can talk about it. It's fine. So, we have YouTube, we have Spotify, we have other
Apple.
subsidiaries.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and then we have Megaphone, which is like the elevated tier for Spotify, right? And for you to be considered a big creator to host a Megaphone, you have to have however many downloads, all of that stuff. So when you're starting out with your clients, what is the pathway on the platforms that showcase your shows on? Because there's so many things out there. How do you start
Sure.
small without it becoming overwhelming for them and for your team?
Well, for one thing, it never becomes anything for them because all they do is they get their questions a week ahead. They show up. If their payment clears, everything's done. So let's put that to the side. For my team and what we're trying to do, for what we use Podbean for the audio side,
Okay.
which is simple. That's like 22 networks, including Apple, including Spotify, including iHeartMedia, everyone you've heard of, plus a bunch you haven't.
Right.
So our audio is taken care of with one fell swoop. And then we do video. Our goal is very different than most podcasting and a professional podcast because there's 5 ways to monetize a podcast. Most people focus on the first two.
Okay.
The first way to monetize a podcast, 4 million views on YouTube, give me a check for 6K, have a good day, right? The second one is you had 4 million views on YouTube. I want to be on your show. Let me give you $10,000 for 4 seconds of you should try this. Okay, that's the second one. Now, the next three is where most professionals need to be thinking about how they're going to monetize their podcast. Number one, it's a relationship building for referrals. So I am a injury attorney and I have a podcast about injury in Atlanta and I interview chiropractors who deal with injury. I interview physical therapists, anybody that's insurance agents and that anybody that would refer me cases. I build relationships through the podcast. So if I build a relationship that makes me $5 million a year, do you think I care if it has 5 or 5,000 views? So that's another way to monetize. The next way is to directly just interview your customer. And there are a lot of people that do that. Now, it's starting to kind of be considered a little gray area. People aren't liking it. I've seen a couple of LinkedIn posts and I've considered doing it and I've told my team we're going to do it and then I've kind of waited. But it's essentially you and I do this podcast and at the end we hit stop and you go, yeah, 5 minutes. And then you pitch me and you try to sell me and close me. That's the second way. And you know what? There's a lot of people doing it and making a lot of money that way. Then the third one is through the podcast, speaking to your client and having them come in to become your client. And that's where I focus. We are calling them authority podcasts. You're trying to be the one to answer for people in Atlanta when they're going through a specific heartbreaking situation. Your podcast, your video answers. I just got my third DUI. Am I going to jail? I type that in and I see a podcast about it. And then I watch the podcast and I see that this guy does all kinds of stuff for DUIs and people like me. And then I look and I see 25 other attorneys. Do you think that that attorney has an edge up on the rest of them if they
Yes.
don't have anything like it? So, yeah, absolutely. Because I see them, I hear them, they answer questions, they assuage fears, they give me clarity. So let's go back again. You're an attorney or whatever professional. Let's say your average client brings you 10,000 fees, and that's a pretty conservative number to use, but let's just say $10,000. So let me ask you a question. Would you want video A? You're laughing, you're joking, you're not really talking about law, but people do know you're a lawyer. By the end of it, you get 5 million views. That's pretty impressive, right? Google sends you a check. Let's say it's 2K per M, or how are they, CPM? So 2K, 5 million, you got $10,000. And then Apple sends you CPM and theirs is lower. Let's say they send you a couple, let's say all told in, you get about 15K in the bank. It's not a bad podcasting gig. But I'm a lawyer. I charge $10,000 per fees. I get no customers out of it. I mean, these people are in Thailand and Michigan, and and I'm over in Portland, Oregon, right? So it's nice, but or would you rather have podcast B? I put my podcast out, only 50 people watch it, but 10 of them call me, 7 of them hire me, and I just made $70,000 versus $15,000. 50 views for 70,000 or 5 million views for 15K. All right, you're a businesswoman. You tell me, and I'll just leave it at that.
I'd rather sell myself and have low views don't equal money. I think people need to understand that. You want relationship, you want to establish yourself and as an authority. So I'll pick the podcast that establishes me as an authority and I'm building those relationships and having those direct customers.
Exactly. And every real business person understands that. They just
Yeah.
haven't been presented it that way. And so I'm out here beating the drum of, hey,
Mhm.
there's a different way to do this, everybody, just like I was back in the early 2010s with Facebook alternate monetization strategies. And so that is the focus of what we're trying to do for our clients. I like to say this. You know, attorneys will be like, and this is exactly what I tell them when they ask me this question. How do I go viral? I want to go viral. And I go, well, listen, if you want to go viral, let's go ahead and you need to learn to ride a unicycle while juggling law books, right off the end of a pier. I'll video camera it and you'll get your views. Won't get any customers though. So it's more than just the number. And yeah, like I said, we can get money from YouTube if we get up to that, you know, millions and millions. Do you know that only 1 out of every 1,000 videos even makes it to 1 million or more? How many videos have you made in your life?
In my life or business wise?
Business wise, let's just say business wise, like for purposes of hoping to monetize it in some
Yeah.
way.
So yeah, business wise, altogether the podcast, we average about 900 to 1,000 videos yearly.
Okay. And that's short and
Yeah.
long.
That's mostly long content. Breaking it up into short is about in the 5K range because we, just like you do, we put out about 20 short clips from an original content.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, but you can see like, and what's your biggest viral video ever? Your biggest number?
The biggest, we've gotten up to 78K on a video, and it was on multiple platforms.
Go ahead.
That video was talking about something grim, something that most people would not talk about, the state of healthcare in Nigeria. So that really hit a lot of nerve. So yeah,
Okay. So yeah, I mean, but think about it. You're making 1,000 videos a year,
yeah,
right? Is that what you said? And you've been doing
yes,
this
of
how many
course.
years?
This will be the full starting 2023. So this will be a full.
Okay. So let's just use let's just say out of 3,000 videos, you've had
Oh,
one that hit 78,000 and yet you do this for a living. But if you only did the first monetization strategy, how much trouble would you be in right now?
damn, you
If
don't
you
have
were
to
waiting
call
for
me
checks
out.
from YouTube, no, I'm not calling you out because it's the same with me. Like we're in the
Right,
same lane. We just have to accept the lane that we're in.
right.
That's my point. My point is, we're not trying to get graced from the YouTube gods for a little check. I'm going to use your vehicle and I'm going to drive wherever the fuck I want and I'm going to make money and I'm going to do well with it and I'm going to
Yeah,
get clients and I'm going to
yeah,
love it and I don't need your money. And you know what? If you go away, I'll just stick my stupid video on somebody else's network.
pretty much.
But that's the mind frame we need to have with podcasting. It's not about waiting for the Apple gods to bless us or the YouTube gods to bless us. It's about communicating with the very people that we're trying to reach anyway. And instead of throwing money into the air, buying PPC, create evergreen, everlasting assets that in 5 years you can still get a customer from. I have a lot of attorneys. You know how we sign a lot of attorneys will come to us and they'll be like, I was thinking about it. I saw your stuff and I was like, you know, I made a video on YouTube like 3 years ago. I've gotten like 4 cases out of it, and one case made me millions of dollars, and it was one video years ago. What if I did that consistently? And we're like, yeah, that's
That's
what
the
we're trying
point.
to tell you.
See, we could talk about this all day, but DM, I need your calendar and your consultation from you because I need to juice you. think you're too juicy. I need to get more juice out of you. So I think we don't have this conversation on this level. Most people don't talk about podcasting this way. Everybody thinks you buy a mic, you stick it in front of your face, and you talk. So the way that you have actually structured it is very valuable for me. I don't know for who's listening, but for me at least, because there's been a lot of trial errors and figuring things out. However, when you meet people who actually care about doing this for the valued add, it's very incredible. So if somebody's looking to work with you, DM, I want you to please let us know where we can find you. I know you're a busy man and you have something else coming up. Where can we find you? How do we get in contact with you? And how do we learn more about your network?
So, two easiest ways. If you want to connect with me directly, right now, LinkedIn is where I hang out. It's my main digital language. Have me back on to talk about digital languages. That's my favorite thing to talk about. So you can do it tomorrow. I'm trying to hit 100. I need 3 more shows I've got to shoot before the end of business tomorrow. LinkedIn, that's my playground. Dennis, Dennis, last name Meador. I'm sure it's in whatever notes here. If you want to find out about my company, we put like our process, our deliverables, our team, our testimonials. So you can go check everything out you need to and then be like, hey, let's talk. And then we'll talk. So we try to basically get everybody. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you hit me up on LinkedIn, you go, yeah, you do the legal podcasting. How much does that cost? I'm literally going to tell you cost without context is commoditization. Don't ask me my price until you understand what I do. So I do that all the time. And then sometimes people are like, well, F you then. And I'm like, you wouldn't have been a good client. And then some people are like, you know what? That makes sense. Let's talk more. And then we work together.
Sure.
But if somebody walks in the door and their first question is how much, they literally view you as a commodity that could be easily replaced. They don't want to know what you can do. They just want to know if it's something they're willing to throw money at. All right, I got another podcast. I really enjoyed our time. I hope you did too.
Same here.
Thanks for tuning in to AVP podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.